What's happening, guys? I hope you're doing well. Hey, there's a question that comes in a lot. It happens to be around, is it a good time to buy? Is it a bad time to buy? I wish I would have bought last year. I'm going to wait till the rates go down or the house prices go down. And so I thought it'd be a good time to kind of unpack where we are in the market, show you maybe how you can win in this market, because I feel like you can win in almost any market. You just have to change your strategy just a little bit. And we're going to kind of do a look back. We're going to look back at what things were maybe about a year ago and then where they are today. Some of the strategies and things that are slightly different. And we're going to focus in right now on Palmdale, California, because each area has kind of unique characteristics to it that are going to tell us if there's a, kind of a pause moment, if it's green light to go, if it's a red to say stop and kind of wait. And so I'll show you in real time kind of a snapshot of what we have going on here. So I'm going to share a screen with you real quick, and we'll dive into this, and I'll follow up with any questions that come through the feed. We'll get you some detailed answers on that stuff too. So we dive in here. First and foremost, what I'm going to share with you real quick, this is a program called, or a website called Optimal Blue. And so to give you kind of some framework around this, this is a website that a lot of lenders like ourselves will go in, and we actually take all the investors that we work with, we aggregate all of them into one place, we run your scenario, and it'll actually show us what the rate is for your circumstances. So your down payment, your credit score, the type of property, the purchase price, all of that stuff plays a factor in what the interest rate would be. And so this takes and shows you, hey, this lender's offering X, this one's a little bit sharper today, and so on. It's also the place where we lock. So the reason I want to use this is because a lot of lenders use this, and the rates that they're going to show you here in a second are all the captured rates for that given point in time across the United States for everybody that locked a loan. So regardless of down payment, regardless of credit score, it's going to capture all of those into one place and give us sort of an average. Okay, so what I want to do is do a look back. But before I do that, I'm going to show you also another site, and these are both public facing sites. You guys can go in, you don't need special codes or passwords or anything to get into it. So I'm going to kind of teach you how I kind of view the market. We can do this with literally any marketplace here using these free tools. So in Redfin, they have some really, really good research tools, and I want to get a feel for what the average selling price is for the entire Palmdale market. So east side, west side, doesn't matter. We're going to look at the entire market here. We're actually going to look at single family homes, but we're going to just, in this case, we're going to look at the all home type. Okay. Now, as I'm recording this right here, it's the 10th of November. I actually don't have the October stats yet. They haven't posted to Redfin. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look in time and see what was September of 2022, what was the average price. And then we're going to do a year look back to September. I'll tie all this together here in a second for you with the rates. But if we simply look at September of 2022, you can see down here a 485 average sales price. Okay, so that encompasses the good homes, the bad homes, the crummy ones, doesn't matter. Average sales price was a 485 here in September of 2022. So let's go back in time and let's find September of 2021 right here. You can see it's 470. All right, so that's what we're going to look at. So even though interest rates took a nice little climb higher, you can see that our average sales price actually went up over that period of time. That's due to the housing shortage right there. So let's jump back and let's look at what the rates were during that period of time. Now I've taken the liberty of kind of creating a little bit of a filtered search here. I'm only looking at 30-year fixed. I'm not putting any kind of a FICO range or a down payment range on this. I just want to get a feel for what was just a 30-year conventional loan at that period of time. So if we go back to September 1st of 2021, the average rate locked was 3.058. Okay, so people that had big down payments, low, high FICO, low FICO, just the blended average across the United States was 3.058. And that also, by the way, I should kind of frame that. It doesn't really matter what the points were because some loans had multiple points, some had zero. And so they just kind of accumulate all of that. This is just the average of the actual interest rate. So 3.058. So let's find that same point in time a year later. So let's find September, what would be right here? Hold on a minute. September 1st to 5.911. So rates really went up almost a whole percent in 1 year. And let's see what that does to the affordability. So I'm going to pull up this right here. I kind of pre-prep this for you. So I've got kind of the snapshot of September of 2021, 470 on the purchase price, 3.058 was the interest rate. we're going to frame this up as somebody having a 20% down payment. So if somebody had 20% down, their monthly payment was $22.36. That would include the property taxes and insurance. So you got a full payment right there. All right. So $22.36. Fast forward a year later, 5.911 as of September 1st. That payment now is $29.59. So significantly higher. Right. We're going to take the difference of that. Let's just kind of do the quick math here. And let's back out 2236.60. So you've got $722.71 different. On the surface, it's incredibly high for a lot of families, like adding an SUV payment that you weren't planning for just to jump into housing. So we want to start looking at everything as kind of a net. Now, we know that there could be, not always, but there could be some tax benefits to write off home mortgage interest. Sometimes even PMI can be written off. In this case, there wouldn't be any PMI, but property taxes could be a write-off as well. So if you're in a place where you can itemize your write-offs, then the true net cost isn't 722. It's actually smaller than that because we're paying a higher interest rate over time, right? Today, our interest rate's much higher than it was before. So therefore, we have more interest to write off. So our true net benefit could be slightly different. So let's look at that. So you got 722.71. This is our, just remember 722. So that's going to be our cost difference on the surface. But down here, you can see I used a hypothetical tax benefit of 30%. So that's a 22% tax bracket on the Fed, 9%, or actually I used 31, sorry, 22 on the Fed, 9% on the state for a total of 31. So the tax benefit here would be about 403. Here it's about 712. So let's do the math on that just to see what the net difference is there. So that 403.37, 309. So we were 722 higher, but we're actually getting 309 better from a tax perspective. So really the true net difference is 413. So it's definitely higher, but it's not quite as high as it initially seemed. That 722 seemed like really far out of reach. One other thing that I want to point out is what it looks like today. So one thing that we don't have the stats here for October and November. We're just now getting started. So we don't have the average sales price here yet. So that's why we did the look back on September. But in November, you can see here where we are in, let's see, September at 5911. We jump all the way here. And the last data point when I built this out was November 4th. That was 7.144 was the average rate. So it went up a couple percentage points even higher. Today, it's starting to drop a little bit. That 7.144 is what I'm going to use right here. So you can see between September and November, buying a home, assuming that the sales price, the average is still 485. Now we took another jump up. So we went from, let's say 29.59.31, and now we're faced with a payment that's 32.74.22. So we're up another $314 just in a couple of months. And this is what's slowing down the market. The consumers aren't really ready for this. And so, how do you win with that? Well, again, same thing. If you have the ability to do an itemization on your write-off, depending on your circumstances, there's a potential maybe somewhere around 840 or so on this versus 712 here. So again, we don't want to look at just the $300 difference. We want to look at the, shore up that gap a little bit. If we do a look back here, we compare November of 2022 to September of 2021, you've got $1,037 more on the payment. But remember, part of that is potentially tax deductible. And so if there is a tax deduction there, out of that $437 gets kind of scrubbed away potentially in taxes. And so your true net difference is actually $600. It's substantial, but it's not quite as high as that 1,000 on the surface, at least when you first look at it. So how do you win in this market? Well, right now, because buyer demand was incredibly high here, if we flash back all the way to September of 2021, to get your offer accepted, you basically had to write over the asking price. You had to remove contingencies. A lot of times you were waiving the ability to get an appraisal done and use that as leverage. So if the appraisal came in low, you had to make up the difference in cash, or you were up against multiple offers. And the only way to get your offer accepted was to go above the asking price. So this 470 actually might be reflective of the list price, might have been closer to like 450 because people were spending more. They couldn't finance that. They had to come out of pocket. They also paid their closing cost. And yes, rates were significantly lower, but the initial cost to get in the door was quite a bit higher. And so these were really hard homes to kind of get your offers accepted on. because typically you were up against 7 to 8 different people to try to buy that house. And some of them had different circumstances, so they were a little bit more desperate than others. And as a result, they were spending quite a bit to get into these homes. So what does it look like today? Well, with this run up in interest rates, buyers are starting to kind of pull back a little bit. So they're like, hey, wait a minute, I can't pay that. This $1,000 more per month on the surface, way more money than I'm willing to spend. I'm out. And so it gives you, as a buyer, if you're a buyer that's committed in this market, it gives you actually a little bit more agency to come in and negotiate one-on-one with the seller. Sellers are realizing that. So you'll notice, if you kind of do a search, you'll notice a lot of price reductions because they got to kind of reset the market a little bit. And there's still some appraised values. So there's still plenty of sales that are supporting the value on these. And so one way to win is, instead of just getting a big fat price reduction, ask the seller for some concession. There's a way with a temporary buy down strategy where you can actually get the seller to prepay or pay down a portion of your mortgage. They're going to subsidize your mortgage payment for the first 2, sometimes even 3 years. In this example here, we're using a strategy like that where we're going to get the seller to bring your rate down for the first year to 5.144 in this example. And that helps that payment from 32.74 come back down to 27.72. So it's helping kind of bridge that gap a little bit, make things a little bit more affordable for you. The other option would be to get a lower sales price, and we can kind of do a comparison, see which one kind of fits best for you. But a lot of times that payment is kind of what's holding people back. And so having the seller kind of buy that down either permanently or in a temporary fashion where they'll subsidize it for a couple of years, that seems to be a big win for the buyers. And you have the ability now as a buyer to go in and negotiate that stuff with the seller. But this window of time has a little bit of a time horizon, because you've got these homes that were elevated for a little while. They were motivated to sell. Now they're having to reset their expectations. So they're coming down and they're willing to negotiate. They've mentally kind of moved out of that property already. And so they still want to just get rid of the property. The new homes kind of coming into the market, if they're being advised correctly, instead of coming in way up here, they're coming in like at a more reasonable level. And so they don't have quite as much room to negotiate down or to pay your costs. So what you're looking for to get a deal, those homes that have been on the market a little bit longer, throw some offers out there, see if you can negotiate. Sometimes you can get some pretty deep concession. We actually just got one worked out. It was a 550 purchase price list. And we got the seller to pay off the solar lease. Solar lease was like $27,000, and do a closing cost credit of 10 grand and buy the interest rate down, which cost about $9,000 too. So if you combine all that together, they got a pretty killer deal on that. They're actually probably getting somewhere close to about 10% off or so on property like that. So where we think values may be in the future, we really think that at least in the market that we're in right now in Palmdale that we're kind of exploring, we think we'll probably scrub a lot of the appreciation level that we saw in 2021. So what does that look like? Well, let's go to Palmdale real quick. Let's look here. Let's say that's 485, and we come all the way back here. We had some elevated price points like 509, 500, 510. These were the average sales prices. You can see that kind of down here. And then if we go all the way back again to September, 470, there's the 486. So I think a lot of the year here gets scrubbed back. So if a home today, let's say the average is 485, they're probably going to land somewhere in this 450 range or so. So they might roll back maybe 8 to 10% on average. And I think that makes a big difference and a big buying opportunity for you as if you're a buyer. Now, if you wait for rates to come back down, what happens? All of the people that are on the fence, kind of waiting for the market to change a little bit, are rushing back into the market. And guess what? You're right back to that same situation where you have multiple offers. You probably have to kind of outbid each other, and you're going to fight for these homes again. So there's going to be this little bit of a dip. That's where we're at right now. I call it the gap. While we're in the gap, it's a good time to negotiate with the seller, ask for the world, see what you get. And if it's the right home, make it happen. I want to give you one example here of a way to kind of win, because the alternative is to rent. And so if we kind of look here, I did a quick search in Palmdale. I set really no filters other than the age. I think I went in and I said, oh no, square footage. I wanted to see anything over 1,000 square feet. And so I said, show me everything for rent. And so if we kind of look here, you can see the map. I got the 14 freeway here, Elizabeth Lake Road, Tier Speed is right here. And I did the same exact thing for purchase. What I wanted to do is kind of look at the neighborhoods and say, okay, my option is to go over here and rent this home for, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,700 square foot for $2,700, or I can potentially buy, this is actually almost a similar neighborhood right here at $399. This is 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 1,823 square feet. So again, rent for 27 or buy for $399. Well, which one makes sense? So let's take a look and see what that looks like. Rent versus the purchase. So you have your rent here at 27, you have your purchase here at $399. We're going to assume, again, 20% down. You don't have to, but we're going to use that for the simple math. And we're going to use the average rate that we saw last Friday, which was 7.144. And today they're actually a little lower than that, actually quite a bit lower than that. But let's use that for now. $2,700. This actually lands about $2,720. So you're really almost right on par. There potentially could be some tax benefit there. We'll have to kind of see in your circumstances. And a portion of that monthly payment is principal. It's paying down the debt over time. It's almost like a forced savings if you look at it. So what you're seeing down here, this 1802, is really the true net loss. So that's your interest that's just kind of gone out the window. It's your loss for borrowing the money. It's money you're not recuperating. There's some benefit, obviously, here with the principal, and there's potentially some benefit here with the tax benefits. But your true net loss on a rent is $2,700. So this actually, to your family, could be a net gain, even though you're paying about the same. On top of that, you have appreciation. We've seen what happens with these homes. And when we go back, I don't know how far back this will let me go, but if I was to, I have another way of searching out another time for you. I can go back 5 years. Look at what the average price was here. This is 300 grand, September of 2017. September of 2018, 307. So it started to stack a little bit over time, went up 2.5%. September of 2019, let's find that. Hold on a minute. September of 2019, 330, went up 7%. September of 2020, 22%. Got a big jump there. And then we know that September of 2021 was 470. That's another 16%. So somebody who maybe could have bought back here, they were a little afraid of the market. They lost a ton of appreciation level over time. And again, I think you can see it right here. You can see we're starting to kind of take that dip down, and that's just due to general demand plus timing in the market. I think we reset somewhere over here. And if we reset somewhere over here, we'll continue this kind of more normalized. You can see these are pretty fast spikes here from appreciation, but you have a more normalized approach right here. And pretty consistent. I mean, look at the numbers down here. You can kind of see them right down here when I'm kind of scrolling over month to month, 5%, 15, 11, 10. They just kind of stack over time. So part of what you have to look at is not just the monthly payment, but you're paying the debt down over time. You're actually fixing your housing costs. Remember, if I was to compare this to a loan, this would be like taking a 1-year fixed loan, meaning every year after that it's adjustable. If you sell the home, to give you comparison, you don't get any of the equity, right? Like, because you're going to pay on this. Let's say you're there for 10 years and they change your payment over time. And when the owner sells it, they're not going to give you any of that equity position. So if you imagine it, comparing it to a loan, if I said, hey, I got a 1-year loan, it's adjustable after that, every year after that, we could sell it at any time and you get none of the appreciation off that and you have zero tax benefit. You'd say that's a terrible loan. Well, that's really what rent is. It doesn't mean that it's bad. I think rent is really, really strong for somebody who maybe is not they're not in this market for, maybe they're not here for 1 to 2, maybe 3 years. They're a little uncertain. If you plan to be in the area for a little longer than that, you should highly consider buying. I think right now it feels really scary. Every home I've ever bought felt scary the day that I bought it and leading up to it. But time kind of heals that. So 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, I think you're going to be really glad that you bought. We're happy to kind of run case by case, one-off scenarios for you guys. That's what we really enjoy doing. Let us know how we can help. It's really a fun real estate market. I mean, if we really dive into things, you have a lot of opportunity there. But again, it's family by family. Some people, we're going to advise you to continue renting or to stay the course, just based on your circumstances. For other people, we're going to kind of highlight maybe some blind spots and maybe help you dispel some myths. And maybe there is an opportunity for you to purchase. And we can help you kind of alleviate some of that fear that you're feeling in the market. It's a scary place right now, but if you got the right data in front of you and you have somebody who's really not biased telling you, you got to buy, you have to buy, we have no problem telling you to stay renting if it's what's best for your family. So let's evaluate your situation, see how we can help. And we look forward to talking to you guys soon. All right. Thanks, guys.